But sometimes the folks that we're inviting to this country bring nothing,
right?
But then
or
they
bring
want
illegal substances like fentanyl,
or aren't invited. Like, sorry, that's part of it.
I'm on the list.
I have a pretty radical environmental position, and I am a no immigrant position. I am not pro immigration. People say, "Well, we need immigrants. Diversity is our strength." I love that.
Then shouldn't New York want as many
of them as possible? Like, why can we not be closed? Why do we need any immigrants? And the people tell me that they provide this tremendous value. I see them undercut wages. I see them as a drain on social systems, which I also oppose. I am a no immigration. I always say, if I'm elected for president, there will be no immigration for like my administration.
Yeah.
The president after me can change that, but we're going to go 4 straight years with no immigration.
I think an immigration moratorium is a completely valid option because we are not just like, struggling with this. We are really in crisis, and that is not okay. I think this is, I mean, I've said it before. I think the open border puts the men and women and children who are trafficked across in harm's way. It hurts the border communities. It hurts our country overall. I think it hurts people who try to apply legally to come here.
It does.
I think ultimately we do a disservice by allowing immigration. I would be for an immigration moratorium. But I can understand if you don't really read about anything and if you're not super political, you're not really into the news, and you just hear sob story after sob story about how actually the people who say this stuff are racist and actually they are harmful to everyone. You know, I could understand where you would be misled, and probably from a very sweet, nice place of compassion. It's just not accurate.
I'm also married to an immigrant. I have to make that clear.
I'm a first generation American.
Well, I want to mention
Australian, if that counts. But
I mean,
they're kind of American.
As far as a moratorium goes, I just like, it's not one of those things where I go, oh, that's bad, that's racist. I just haven't seen the numbers to know whether that's necessary. I think if a moratorium becomes necessary, absolutely. I don't know the stats. I do know that we have had an unprecedented and unsustainable number of people pouring across the border. Yeah. I think in an ideal situation, a country should be able to welcome immigrants who are coming to try to make a better life for themselves.
Right.
But it's important for political leaders to do the hard work of maintaining the standard of living for the citizens who were born there and who live there, and not just allow anyone into the country when that is going to come at a tremendous burden for the population of that country.
There's a hospital near Dulles Airport called, I think it's Stone Springs, that friends of mine who live in that area used to tell me. They have a sign outside for the ER, 5-minute wait, 4-minute wait. But now we train or we fly multiple flights per day of illegals, and we drop them off, and the first thing they do is they go to the airport. And now the local community says the ER, or the local hospital, excuse me, thank you. And now the local community says, well, now the ER has a 15, 18, 20, 25. And they're like, what's going on? Well, that's the result of unchecked immigration. So
exactly.
Hope you don't have diverticulitis or a heart attack because your services are now severely encumbered. Well, that's a reality. Exactly. That's not bad or good. It's bad, but it's reality.
Well, okay, and so
it's bad.
There was one time, I think, where you could have the left, if they were remotely consistent or cared about the things they claim to care about. You could even have the left making an argument for a moratorium, and that was during COVID. People weren't allowed to go to work. People weren't able to visit their loved ones in the hospital while they were dying. People weren't able to go to the funerals of loved ones because this disease was just too dangerous and everyone was going to die if it was allowed to spread. But we were just letting people into the country. It's like, that's absolutely insane. People don't have the freedom to go from their house to their job, and you're saying people have the freedom to come from anywhere in the world into our country when this is the time of a pandemic? I mean, I'm not asking for a moratorium. I'm just asking for laws to be followed. This is crazy that we're even having this debate. What the discussion should be about is, what are the immigration laws? Instead, our discussion is, should we follow them? Should we enforce the immigration laws we have? That's totally insane.
We didn't even force vaccines on the illegals.
No. We didn't.
Right?
If you migrated legally, you had to take the COVID vaccine. But if you crossed the border illegally, you did not have to. This is craziness. Yeah. And again, it only punishes people who try to operate in a respectful way to our laws, which I find to be abhorrent. Like, why are we allowing this? And I just think, the fact is, you can't have a logical conversation about immigration because people feel uncomfortable talking about implications of race or diversity or whatever else. And that's fine. You try to do it in a respectful way. But if you bear out the numbers, like one of the examples I was reading recently is that tech job salaries have been stagnant for a long time. And part of that is because we actually have an oversupply of workers because of H-1B visas. If we didn't have that, we would have an industry that becomes competitive again. I find it interesting that people can't bear out that like immigration has consequences for the population. And sometimes we have to say no. And it's not out of hatred. It's just out of protection for
It's out of love.
America.
Everything else
It's out of
detached,
love.
you